Okay. So like I said, today with our example models, now with apparently again once again my one-eyed duck, I wanted to show everybody how to approach some accessories. So that's one of the requirements of the models, but also so far we've been working largely with like either prefab models in the modeling workspace or in the form workspace of like starting with like a sphere or a box, anything like that, and manipulating those, either joining them together with a bridge tool, or if we have to weld vertices, anything like that. But I wanted to show you how you can approach some things that are much more free form, like a hat, like a handkerchief, or possibly a couple of people also asked me about like a cape, that sort. And I wanted to show a couple of different ways you could approach this. So I'm going to stay with the duck here just because it's there. Let me instead hide my little neckerchief and cowboy hat just to give you oh, that's right. I never did join the little band on that. So inevitably I'll start a new component with this, but we'll go from there. So one of the main things to remember is your accessories do not have to be part of the body, meaning you don't have to combine. And frankly, that would kind of defeat the purpose of it being an accessory, a separate body. If you try to join it, there you go. And some people are approaching things like they want to put sunglasses on or something like that. Perfectly fine. That would probably even be better done with like a sketch extrude situation rather than we're going through the form workspace. But with things that are much more flowing, obviously you probably need something that is more flowing. So um, to start with this, I'm going to go to create form, and I want to show first like a way to make something that is already going to be like an undulating surface, like a cape or towel or something like that. So one of the best approaches would be, sure, you could start with like a plane and then make it complex enough and move the vertices up, down, yada, 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 move it around. But if you know that you want something to have like a certain profile, well, do exactly that. So what I'm going to do is you can create, like we've done in multiple other ones, you can create extrudes, sweeps, or revolve, sweeps, and also lofts into the fusion or into the form workspace. So why not start with that? So I'm going to start with a construction plane and two sketches. So let me move my a couple of construction planes out. Sure, 50. Why not? Oh, it's hiding all my construction planes. And let me start another one. Right click, repeat, just because I know I'm going to make something much longer. Okay, doesn't really matter. So I'm still in the form workspace. You could have drawn, you could do these outside of the form workspace, does not matter. But to start, I'm going to work on the intermediate space, and I'm just going to draw a bit of like a little bit point spline. So I just want something that's kind of flowy, curvy. Starts from there. The good thing is as I'm going to build this as a loft, you can always make alterations after the fact. So I'm going to start one sketch. Of course, it's hiding my sketches. Repeat. I mean, repeat the sketch. Start a new one back there. And let's make this much larger. Super duck it will be. Oops. Looks like I accidentally ended my fit point spline there. Did not mean to do that. Extra flowy, extra big, all that kind of thing. Doesn't even have to end on the same up-down sweep, just gigantic. All right, so I have one sketch profile and another. Cool. I can go to create, loft, first sketch profile, second one, and it's going to automatically create as a plane now. Rather than before, it would have had to been a completely closed profile with meaning an inside and outside surface. This time, now I can create this as a flowing, undulating plane surface, complete with all its own edges, vertices, and whatnot. Now, again, you can, of course, still control the number of faces, both length and width. So if you want to simplify this a little bit, do so. But do watch as I simplify the amount. If I go too far, it simply does not have enough complexity to follow my profile. And that's up to you. You can bump it back up, just see where it gets to get it close enough. So if you want to keep it simple for now, you can leave it more simple, add complexity later. Okay, cool. That'll work for me for now. From here, now I can go back and play with the edit form just like we've been doing. Let's go by vertex. I want to add the little what would be the little corners to tie in. So I'm going to select both of those vertices. If I want, I can switch soft modification back on, have a little more control with it, drag those both forward, and now very quickly start to manipulate and become a cape. So you can see, obviously, I can get really close to what I want to have very quickly. Now, one thing about this, oh, should not have done it that way. I think I missed one. Yep, thank you. Yep, there it is. There we go. So you don't have to make it right up against right from the get-go. And of course, I can continue to add if I want more flow to it, especially since I have soft modification on. Let's select like there, and we can expand like the width of the area of effect. So you can see red and black. It's not really showing as well, but anyhow, we can move this up, down, all over the place, just like we would have anything else. So you get the idea. You can add complexity. You can even go in if you wanted some areas to be sharper. Well, yeah, let's bring in a crease and add. If I double click, it'll go the entire length. Or if I just want partial creases, oops, helps if I actually turn the crease tool back on. You can get partial creases and just play around with it that way. It's up to you, whatever. Easy way to create some kind of like a blanket or cape or blanket cape, whichever you want. But one thing is this, when I go to hit finish form, this is going to read now as a surface. You see this orange shape that's like a partial circle, looks like a piece of paper wrapped around. There's no top, there's no bottom. This is often visualized as one side is gray, and one side is more of like, has like more of a gold color to it, yellow gold. That is a single paper thickness. That is currently like when we made our spoons before we added the thick into it. It is just a piece of paper thick. That's all there is to it. There's no dimension. So it does not read as a solid object. So if you were to say, actually make this to be 3D printed, this isn't a thing yet. This is just a surface. So what that means is I just need to go back in, edit feature, like we did before, thicken, and add whatever. 1 millimeter, sure. Okay. Now, when I go to finish form, you'll see that now reads as a solid object, as a body. And that's the only difference. So just make that slight alteration. You make it thicker or thinner, however you like, more power to you. So save, if I could spell, and apparently I have the caps lock on. Okay, cool. Okay, well, what about something more contained like a hat? Oh, apparently I made a couple of different versions. I forgot about that. Well, there's no immediate plane per tool. Well, there's not a round plane tool. And that is actually one thing I really wish they would add into Fusion. So let's go back into the form tool. To create this, like any other object, like any other thing, you really want to try to simplify the shape in your head of what is the closest approximate starting point that I can use to get to where I want to be. So like with the cape, yeah, it's going to be a flat sheet, well then some kind of a plane, but I want it to move, so it made more sense to create 2 fit point splines and a loft between, and then create the plane that way. With this, I need like I kind of need like a flat thing, a round flat thing that I could push up. Well, that's not an option, so let's go the opposite way. Something that's already round that's up that I can stretch out, which would be a cylinder in this case. So let me hide this. Hello. All right. Won't let me hide the pre-existing cowboy hat. Fine. Super. Okay. So the starting point would simply be, yeah, well, let's use a cylinder then. Remember that a cylinder in the form workspace, and I'm just going to use a center point right there, creates as an open shape, meaning it's just the outside. So as I create a dimension, it's just a tube. Now you make this as complex or simplified as you want. Again, make it simple, a little bit like that. Might as well turn on symmetry. Let's do mirror. And because it's a cylinder, you got to be careful. Make sure that you have enough sides to where you have an actual defined left and right, if that's what you're wanting. So in this case, I do want Is it height symmetry? Nope. It should be width. There we go. And good. Green is going right across, straight down the center. Excellent. If I want to simplify this, might as well. Okay, but I do need to close this up, obviously. So I'm going to start by going to modify and fill hole. Select the top, double click. Let's go through a couple of options. Can't hide all the bodies, but I can at least hide the sketches, clear it up a little bit. Let's go through some of the options that will make the best choice here. So the reduce star doesn't look great. Fill star, still kind of problematic. Let's try collapse. I think I can work with that. I at least have a clear left and right symmetry across. If I want to keep the creases, that'll keep it sharp. I don't know, maybe you're making more like a stovetop top hat style. In this case, I'm going to keep with the cowboy hat because that's what I'm trying to show. So not keep creases, but I do recommend if you are using the collapse star option or collapse rather, pre-check the weld center vertices. Yeah, you can see my model kind of tweak a little bit, as in it changes ever so slightly. But when I select that, that means the center automatically joins completely. For some reason, I'm not sure why. Often enough, if you close a cylinder like this, it won't create one single vertex that they all join. It seems to create multiple vertices all occupying the exact same spot. And when you go to finish form, it creates some really weird errors. Don't know why, does, but seems to fix. If you check the weld vertice box, usually fixes it. Okay. That gets us real close. Granted, it's more like a fez right now, but that's all right. But it is still a surface. You can see inside, there's no bottom to it. Great. So now it's just a matter of playing around with it. So we'll go back to edit form. We'll go by vertices in this case. I'm going to select here, and I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit. Let's see. Let's do a uniform shrink for this one. That might be a terrible option. I don't know yet. Maybe I'll shrink it side to side, so it's immediately going to start getting a bit more hat-like. Sure. But what do we do at the bottom? That's actually the easier one because we're working with a cylinder. Or apparently if you want to make a UFO hat, I don't know. I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to use the uniform three-dimensional scale, the little center one, and scale outward. Ooh, more like a sombrero or, I mean, cool, whatever, you do you. That's a hell of a brim on that, but maybe we shrink that just a wee bit. Yeah, exactly, right? Have a little duck and anyhow. So that'll immediately flatten it out. And then from there, you can just start like we've done with everything else. Just start tweaking it, get it close to where you want it to be. Now, one thing is I do not have soft modification on, but it's dragging a lot with, and I want to try to flatten this hat. Well, simple trick to that would then be, let me finish here, and let's go put a crease somewhere, probably here at the bottom. All right, sharp crease there at the bottom of the hat or the bottom of the top there. Go back to edit form. Let's start to tweak this a bit more. Now, since I have that crease, I can kind of work with this a fair bit more. Flatten it out, and now you can see really where I'm going with this. All right. I'm just going to keep it the giant hat because now I'm entertained by that. Now, the trick here is going to be, I want to try to create that curl upward on the sides of the brim. How do you do that? Well, obviously, we're going to have to start selecting only some of the vertices now. So from here, start tweaking this upward. But if I change to switch to by edge instead of by vertex, I grab these two edges, and now I can actually rotate, and I get a lot more control that way. So swapping between how you select things by vertex controls everything pretty evenly. You also get a really good effect by using the soft modification. However, as soon as you start to need to actually add any kind of curl on anything, change it up, use by edge or by face, because rotating vertices, especially individuals, does absolutely nothing. Now you can select groups of them and you'll get kind of the same effect, but I prefer personally, this is just how I have found that I like working, is switch over to work by or select by edge, and I'll very quickly start to get much more of a curl. Oops. Now remember, don't go too far. You're definitely going to run into errors, but this is where you just start playing around with it. Same thing here. All right. That rotation worked well, but let's see. Let's change that one to vertex. Let's see if I can get that to also move around. All right, starting to get really pretty okay with that. I'm really not too put off by that. Same deal if I wanted to work in the center here. Let's switch by edge. I'm going to select those two in the center. Let's drag that downward. Now, obviously, that's not working as well. I do get kind of a little push in, but I definitely want to have to come back. Let's add a crease to that. As soon as I sharpen up that edge, oops, I uncreased it just now. That is not the effect I wanted. Now, when I come back in, swap back over to edit form. And yeah, obviously by now you're seeing that, yeah, it's a lot of back and forth. Now I can work with the vertices, drag these inward, and I can very quickly start to get the overall shape that I want. You want more detail? Okay, it looks more like a molar at the top at this point. So I don't know. Maybe it's got a tooth at. It's a little dentist. It's a cowboy dentist. I don't know. You do you. I'm just gonna flail here. Um, obviously you start working in, add some more complexity, insert edge there. Now I have a little bit more to work with. All right, we're back to um, edit form again. Maybe select a couple of edge lines that work along the side. And now if I drag these inward, I start to get that little hold in a little bit. Oh, yeah, so that's somewhat hat-like. Obviously, more tweaking, you get there. Okay. Now, one thing, if y'all haven't seen this yet, let me see if it shows up. All right, it's not showing up, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to ignore that. There has been a built-in form check there. So obviously, before you go to edit form or finish form, if you want, you can always go straight to utilities and just check for errors. But so far, there haven't been. I don't see anything popping up. So let's try finish form. Okay, well, I didn't mean to make it around his neck, so it's more like a, scratch collar for the duck, but whatever. I don't know what all I have in here. There we go. Oh God, that is horrifying. Well, cool. Man-made nightmares. But again, I have and a floating body here. Again, I have created this as a as a surface. That is a long hat. Probably want to shrink that a wee bit. I've created this as a surface, so I definitely need to go back in, edit, add some thickness to it. In this case, I'm going to switch over to a soft sharpness or a soft thicken. You might get a little distortion, but if you start to get some odd internals here, like you can see in the brim of the hat, I definitely am getting some weird stuff here. Ooh, some really weird stuff. Let's check. I may have just created a completely, yep. See, now I have errors. So it might have been a better option to have done the brim as I done the brim after I added thickness, but we're here where we are now. So let's see let's just check if a repair body works. No, I don't think so. All right, so then we have to switch to box mode, see a little bit more clearly. Yep, that's kind of what I expected. And the issue is probably down in here. Top looks okay, even though it strangely looks a little funky. So let's just change by vertex. Looks like it's just that one down in there. And let's just drag that up and outward a little bit. Let's see what that does. Looks like I might still have some errors, but let's try it. Still some errors. Oh, yeah, sure. Of course, it's on the inside. Or just these large circles. This entire area is a problem. Self intersection. Yeah, probably the same. So again, you might have to go do some more tweaking. Looks like I got some issues under here. I can always just come around and start playing with this. But ultimately, like we've worked with before, gonna have to just kind of tweak some of these issues, drag them outward, and just kind of work the problem. Um, it might have actually been better to have thickened it with a little more dimension. Maybe that would have helped. Who's to say I can't? That's always the problem with edit form. Can't really go back and forth. All right, now that I've moved things around, let's just give a quick try to repair body, see if it works for me. Hey, it did this time. Okay, so we're able to move stuff around a little bit. Looks like I might even still have some error. I probably am. So I don't know what happened there. It might be an odd artifact of how it's being visualized, or it's still a existing error. Don't know what. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Just a full untangle situation. Fine, let me try one more thing and then we'll move on because I don't want to waste too much time with this. Looks like I have some odd issues with the edges. So I think I'm just going to select the entire edge here. Let's drag that up and around. Ah, there we go. That kind of untangled it. That is a not great looking hat, but that does look like it untangled things. So let me try that again. Finish form. Poop. Well, it's gonna be one of those kind of days. So anyway, we'll just continue. I'll ignore it for now and I'll have to work at it later. But that's pretty much how I would go about making some of these parts, aside from the errors. Um, keep working at it, that sort of thing, and you'll eventually get what you want. Um, why is it now not showing? Oh, it's up there. This was just done with, it looks like, essentially the same thing, but what I did is I just had a bit more of a clear space to work. This one, I think ultimately I just turned with the one I was just working on. I just tried to curl the sides in a bit too much, and when it added thickness, it just created a self intersection. So in all reality, probably can just go just Control Z or Command Z a few times, get back to where I was, and unfold that. But sometimes it ends up that you've kind of tangled things a bit too much, and it might be easier to just start over since I didn't exactly spend that much time on that. But just tweaking a few things with your form workspace, you can pretty quickly create some actually pretty involved accessories. So like the hat, the cape, whatever, super duck, and away you go. So I'll fix that eventually, but for now, super cowboy duck it is. Hopefully that gives you some pointers on how you can approach at least more cloth-like materials or objects. Um, and we'll go from there. So good luck with it. Hopefully have fun, or at least you're able to fix problems more quickly than I am.